Hello, everyone. Today, we will explore the topic of troubleshooting authorization issues in Google Sheets when using the query function together with the IMPORTRANGE function. Let's start with the fact that using these formulas simultaneously can make work easier when we want to transfer either part of the changes or filtered values from one table to another. So, for importing, we use the IMPORTRANGE formula, and for filtering during transfer, the query function. Since the IMPORTRANGE function requires authorization confirmation every time we use it in conjunction with another table, our combination of functions may fail. Today, we will discuss how to avoid errors and use our formulas as efficiently as possible. So, in our example, we have a table where we want to display values from two other tables. The first table contains information about employees, their age, department, salary, and so on. We want to transfer data from this table to our main table, but in such a way that only the IT department is displayed. When, for example, we want only the IT department to see, for instance, only their income level or for any other tasks. So today we will focus specifically on this. We want to import this table, but only for the IT department. And we also have a second table that contains similar data, another part of it, and here we also have the same specified conditions. It is very important that when we use import formulas together with query, our columns and data range from which we pull data should be the same. For example, consisting of 6 or 7 columns in both cases. So let's go to our main table and try entering formulas. We will immediately try to set it through a query request. We start entering the query function. We see that we have data in the query function, which is our range, from which we will take data and which we will further filter, rebuild, or enter some values we need through queries. And headers. Well, today by default, when headers is not set, we know that if we don't put any values in headers, then in this case it will by default only add names from the first range. So we enter the query function, and instead of data, we immediately start entering the IMPORTRANGE formula. We need a link to our table from which we want to import data and the data range. We go to our table from which we want to import, and through Share, we copy the link to paste it into our formula. Through double quotes, which is very important. So we paste the link to our table, and after that we need our data range. For this, we can go to any other page of our table and try to select the range so we don't have to write it manually. And accordingly, copy this range without saving this formula. We copy the range name, go to our main table, and paste our range. Also through double quotes. If you have, for example, a table with large values, and you want all new values to be displayed when adding new rows or new values, I recommend also removing values from the range formula. After we put our import instead of data, we start with a comma, after which we enter the select query. In this case, we need to select all our data but filter it by condition so that we only have the IT department. We count which column this is. It's our third column. So we enter select all, where column 3 =, IT through single quotes. Close the quotes. Close our query function. We output. We see that we get the first error, but at the moment when we use query with only one import range. Then, in general, we can add our authorization permission immediately inside this formula. When we use a second range insertion, we will see that the error will occur in such a way that we won't be able to grant this access immediately. So we click Allow Access, and accordingly, we see how the data from the first table is output through our formula. We go to the first table, and we see that indeed this data that we needed was pulled into this table. Now let's try to use this also to simultaneously pull multiple data ranges from different tables through the query function. For this, we must add curly brackets to separate our ranges. And again, enter the IMPORTRANGE function. And go again to our second table. Here we follow the same route again. Copy our link, add it through double quotes to our formula, and after a comma, we also need to add the range. The range will actually be the same as in the first table since they don't differ. But just in case if you have tables with different page names, it's better to duplicate this information. So we select the entire range that we need and add it to our formula, while removing the precision value of up to which row our values will be displayed. We close our IMPORTRANGE formula, and don't forget about the curly brackets. We see that an error is already being displayed, and I want to mention a very important point. If we insert a comma between our IMPORTRANGE formulas, then they will go column by column. If we use a semicolon, then they will go one under another. So we save the formula and we see that we get an error. It says that we are missing one or more values. But in this case, it actually only occurs because we don't have authorization for the second import. How can we avoid this? For this, we need to select our IMPORTRANGE formula that referenced the second table, and enter this formula through a separate sheet and grant authorized access. We see that we get an error here again. We click Allow Access. This way, our entire table is displayed here. We go to our first table and we see that the formula has worked, because it actually couldn't find this data only because we didn't have authorization. We can delete the sheet we don't need. And now we see that data from two tables for IT is displayed. That is, from the second table, information about the IT department is also displayed. Here we see the IT department. We go back, and we see that everything works. And before this, I said that the semicolon is very important. If we put a comma, then as we can see, our formula will be displayed in such a way that our columns will go column by column. And this is not very convenient, so I suggest you do it through a semicolon if you want to display rows under rows. Overall, that's all. I hope you won't have any more problems with errors when using the two formulas, query plus IMPORTRANGE. Don't forget about the peculiarities of these formulas and the mentioned peculiarities of using IMPORTRANGE. Give it a like if you enjoyed the video. If you still have any questions, ask them in the comments.